So times were pleasant for the people there, until finally one, a fiend out of hell, began to work his evil in the world. Grendel was the name of this grim demon. Okay, so today we're going to talk about lines 86 through 340, particularly Grendel, and the reason Beowulf voyages to Denmark. So Grendel is a demon that lives in the desolate fens. Apparently, we will find that he lives at the bottom of a fiery pond, and that this pond is going to be the symbol of the underworld. And actually, that the pond itself, when we get to the descriptions, is sort of like hell. It's going to be the parallel of Herat, but underwater, underground. Grendel is an outcast. He has been exiled from humanity by God. He is a descendant of Cain, who killed his brother and committed the first murder. And the offspring of Cain's are monsters, elves, demons. Two things here. Exile and kin killing are important themes or motifs that will reappear throughout the text. Kin killing in this culture is the worst thing a warrior could do, because there is no way to extract the weird guild or the blood money or revenge for the crime. And we'll see that there's lots of kin killers in Beowulf, and they just sort of pile up. You start, your kin are those that are supposed to stand around you and help you against other enemies, particularly in a world that is dark and full of violence. You start killing them, and there's no one around or no one left to support you, and then bad things happens. So we'll see kin killing in Himad, Unferth, and even Hrothgar's family. Hrothgar's nephew is going to eventually usurp Hrothgar's son as to be the ruler or the king of the Danes. We also see it in the Geat family, an accidental death, but it's still kin killing, and in the Swedish ruling family. So kin killing is everywhere. The other thing to think about is Grendel being in exile. And exile is important. Exile is the worst thing that could happen to you in this society, as a person. And there are also numerous exiles in Beowulf, including Beowulf's father. Beowulf's father got into a feud when he was a young man, accidentally killed somebody, or purposely killed somebody, and was exiled by his clan because there was going to be a war that was going to be started over this. He went to Denmark, and Hrothgar actually paid the Weird Guild or the blood money for this murder, which got Beowulf's father off the hook. This is going to be important here in a second when we talk about it. Now, Grendel's name could mean wail or howl or scream, meaning that perhaps Grendel can't talk, which will make him a double exile. Not only is he exiled from humanity, but he can't communicate. The poet says at one point that he can't boast, which, again, might reinforce this idea that he can't talk. He's called a lone walker. He has no father that is mentioned. Everyone else has a father, and that's almost important. The first thing you see when people introduce themselves, I am son of so-and-so. He kills at night. He is described in negatives. He's called God's exiled or God's outcast. He's called the killer of souls. He's called a death shadow, among other things. He fights with no weapon. Actually, we'll see that he is immune to weapons. There's this idea that Cain, when he was outlawed by God, was given the mark of Cain to protect him from humans, from humanity. And we're not quite sure what this mark of Cain was, if it's actually a mark on the body or is it something more symbolic. It's possible that the mark of Cain on Grendel is this idea that he's like protected from human weapons. We'll see that Beowulf will kill him by using his bare hands. He's not going to use a weapon. Why does Grendel attack Herat? Well, he can't stand hearing the poet, the Scop, singing. He can't stand looking in at the companionship of the comitatus, these warriors singing and drinking and having fun. He feels apart from it. He's exiled from humanity. He can't celebrate with others. Again, he might not even be able to talk. His wail, his voice might be just what his name means, wail. Symbolically, Grendel reflects the cycle of violence. Hrothgar builds this great mead hall, the greatest mead hall in the world, to celebrate his victory over others. He has conquered other people, and they pay him tribute. He is able to build his mead hall in order to celebrate it. The subjugation of people and tribes, all come in to represent his pride, and that pride goes into the mead hall. Ironically, Grendel strikes at Hrothgar from within Hrothgar's own borders. It is Hrothgar's pride that has attracted Grendel. Grendel would have never noticed that, that he was an outcast or actually seen how much of an outcast he was if it wasn't for this building of this hall. And so he sort of symbolizes this cycle of violence. Violence doesn't go away; it continues. And Hrothgar, ironically, can't get rid of Grendel. All right, so why does Beowulf come to Denmark? There are three real reasons. One, for fame, because that's what a warrior does. A warrior needs to build fame as a young man, because the only way to live on in this life is through doing great deeds, so that the Scop, the poet, sings about you in the mead hall, and everyone remembers you. Even though there's Christian interpolation in this text, Beowulf himself is obviously not Christian. That is sort of the working of the Christian poet, the Christian monk who wrote down Beowulf. Two, he comes to pay off his father, Ecgtheow's debts. His father, again, promised, tribute to Hrothgar. Hrothgar, saved him from this, paid his weir guild, saved him from this exile, this banishment, for getting himself into this feud and this fight and killing someone. So that, that promise, that loyalty to Hrothgar actually transfers to his son, Beowulf. Beowulf comes to repay Hrothgar for his generosity for his father. And three, as I mentioned before in the earlier sort of lecture, that there is a connection between the Danes and the Swedes. Well, if you look on a map, Geatland is in between the Danes and the Swedes, and the Geats are sworn enemies of the Swedes. So if the Swedes and the Danes team up against the Geats, they would hit them from both sides. They pretty much have them surrounded. Now, so Beowulf perhaps goes to Denmark, third reason, to sort of form an alliance with the Danes, which would prevent them from joining in with the Swedes against the Geats if it comes to that. So really, if you look at, the three reasons why Beowulf comes to Denmark: personal, family obligations, nation. Those are the three things that are important in this society. All right, we'll talk later.